Today, I would like to discuss with you why manifestation techniques don't work and what can be done about it. So, I have been making these videos since 2013, and around 2018, I started talking about my experiences applying the information in Think and Grow Rich. And over the years, starting 2019, we discussed Neville Goddard information, the information from James Allen, and many New Thought leaders like Charles Haanel, for example, the Master Key System, and lately we've been discussing Joel Goldsmith. And since 2020, I've been getting a lot of these kinds of questions, not prior to 2020, but more so after 2020. I started getting a lot more of these questions as to why is it when some of these individuals do these manifestation techniques to manifest a text message or to run into someone, at times it works, but it does not actually result in the harmonious relationships that they desire. And or if they do try these techniques and it doesn't work, they go on to shame and condemn themselves, or they get frustrated with themselves because, for whatever the reason may be, they can't get it to work. So generally, what I like to discuss with them or explore with them or share with them is, I might not necessarily bring up the passage, but it's related to Matthew 6:33, which states, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So you could relate to this passage whatever way you'd like. The way I relate to it personally is existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment you were seeking. Thus I titled today's conversation Mind Map. Existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment you were seeking. When I came across this information in 2004 through Think and Grow Rich, what he said was, if you have a burning desire, you imagine yourself already in possession with that. What I've come to realize, having manifested that first definite chief aim, imagining myself having in my bank account $25,000, which happened in ways that I never thought of before. What happened along the way was also what he discussed in the book, which is in the subconscious mind, there are these beliefs, or lately I've been referring to them as conditions placed upon consciousness. Conditions, fear of criticism, fear of loss of love, or in relation to the title of the mind map, conditions that suggest you are not the love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment you were seeking. Now, as a result of identification to these conditions, what happens is an individual seeks outwardly for these conditions to be met to suggest that only if it shows up that way, then they can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Then they generate the illusion, and it corresponds as the appearances, as the manifestations of those identifications or the conditioning of not having or not to being that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which they already are, which we can clearly see is an illusion. So what he said was, dissolve this conditioning. Dissolve this conditioning. These are beliefs stored in the subconscious mind that suggest this or that needs to happen in order to be that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that you are seeking for. Now, as a result of dissolving these conditions along the way, which appeared, sometimes they would appear, I would get triggered by whatever kind of appearance, a person, an environment, a circumstance, or an information. And I would think that I am not already that which I desire to be, which is free. So the symbol of freedom was not to being enslaved by debt. Now, interestingly, I have over the years manifested many definite chief aims. Till this day, I always have a definite chief aim. And along the course, my relationship with money has evolved. And although I personally choose not to go in debt, I actually don't see a problem now, having realized how money works. I don't see a problem with leveraging debt. Leveraging debt. For example, I have a few clients that own a number of properties, real estate investors, and all of them have mortgages on these properties. Yet, what is happening is through the rental income and through the value increasing on these properties, not only are they generating income, they're also paying off the mortgage, and also they're benefiting from the appreciation of the assets, the properties. And so they get to a particular point where they sell off these assets, and then they have capital gains. So we could see there's a scenario where leveraging debt can be helpful. Now, should a person do this? Well, the answer is depends. I always say your style is the best style. Your style of investing is the best style. Your style of entrepreneurship is the best style. Your style of living is the best style. So for me, I wanted to get out of $50,000 debt. And what happened was I got out of $50,000 debt. And along the way, what Neville Goddard would call the bridge of incidents, there were these opportunities to release the conditioning. So there would be thoughts appearing in mind that suggest this is going to be really hard, or it appears from my current scope of awareness, which is based on condition. Then I knew it was a condition. I could only see possibilities of how I could get out of debt based on what other people have done. Now, I knew it was a condition, so I released that condition by not identifying with that thought. That's it. By not identifying with that thought, the emotions, any kind of emotional charge was released. And also, body became calmer. And the opportunities emerged. The opportunities emerged in interesting ways. I started getting all this overtime. So I used to work in corporate IT around that time. And what was interesting is they had a position available, which usually that position is filled. But for whatever the reason may be, they weren't able to fill that position for years. I don't know if they had a particular kind of criteria. But nonetheless, I actually took on the opportunity to do overtime and take on that role, which was a very laid-back role. It was so laid back that I had all this time to come in on the weekends, and what I would do was I would study entrepreneurship. I would look at various business opportunities. I would study about money. I started getting into money consciousness-based information, having a harmonious relationship with money. So some space emerged for me to cultivate that relationship with money. And also, the money started to show up. I was literally getting paid to study my own stuff. Now, they didn't actually care about that because a lot of what that particular position, which I was filling in overtime, entailed was monitoring systems. So it's not like I can sit there and stare at a screen all the time. I just had to be aware and be able to respond accordingly in case there were some changes needed to be made. And also I'd print these reports. There was this big printer and it would print these reports, and I would just deliver the reports, put it on the shelves, sort them out, put them on the shelves. I had figured out how to optimize it so well that I was able to dedicate time to learn entrepreneurship, to look at business opportunities, to study finance. And that was very nonlinear. I didn't think that I was going to get this kind of opportunity. And it happened effortlessly. Now, a few years had passed by, and this was going on for a few years. I got out of $50,000 debt. I had $25,000 in my bank account. And I remember my manager at the time saying, "You have made more in overtime than the salary of senior techs." So I set the next definite chief aim and the next one and the next one. And I would notice that in relation to whatever definite chief aim that I would set, there were these opportunities that would show up. These thoughts would appear in mind, and I would release the conditioning. This conditioning would suggest that only if some external condition is met, then I can get love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, what was interesting is people ask me a lot about relationships. I can honestly say my dating life, my relationship life, my friendship life improved and consistently got better since 2004, even if I was not focusing on it. Why is that the case? One could say you're committed to the vision. You're committed to the definite chief aim. That can be very attractive. You're not swayed by this and that. And the way I relate to it is it goes deeper than that. And by that is meant, along the way, I was releasing all these conditions that suggest people need to appear this way or that way. They need to do this or that in order for me to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. What naturally manifested more and more so, and continues to do so this day, is what we call unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that plays out as harmonious relationships. So when individuals do a particular kind of tactic or technique to manifest a text message or something like that, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great as well. A person might say, "What do you mean? I want it to work." Well, it's an opportunity for you to release identification to conditioning. So in other words, the person thinks that if the person text messages them or calls them back or something like that, then they can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and only then they can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, what is interesting is if they feel completely fulfilled, they know that they are, more specifically, they know that they are. Existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. The fact that you exist is love. The fact that you exist is happiness. The fact that you exist is peace. The fact that you exist is bliss. The fact that you exist is complete fulfillment. Not because of this or that condition. What happens is you're able to have a harmonious relationship with them because it's not based on condition. I don't need this condition to be met in order to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I can experience that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason, because I am that. And not because Joseph said so. What I have realized from applying this information since 2004 is as I have dropped these conditions that this or that externally needs to be there, my life continuously got better and better and better. My style. So the way I relate to this, in the passage it says, "And his righteousness and all these things will be added onto you." What I like to say is, what is rightfully yours is yours, and you can only imagine otherwise. I suggest not. You can only think otherwise. I suggest not. And so what happens, what manifests is, and I took some notes here, what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say in relationships. What you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, how you emotionally relate, for example, in dating, what you wear, where you are, who you are with, your style, how you breathe, how you walk, how you carry yourself, your tone of voice, your facial expressions, how you smile, the pace at which you move, what you prioritize, what you give attention to, the foods you choose, the music you choose, happens naturally. It's not like you're looking around to see what other people are doing, which is their style, which is their best style, and copying them because you think by doing those things, then you can have love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. What naturally manifests is your style, which is the best style. Your style, which is the best style. as how you go about living your life, as all these things here, including, as we've been discussing, real self-confidence, real self-magnetism, real self-charisma. And what's interesting is the relationships that you're in, be it friendships, romantic relationships, dating relationships, business relationships, they love your style and they love you for who you are. They experience happiness with you. You experience happiness with them. You experience love with them. They experience love with you. You experience peace with them. They experience peace with you. You experience bliss with them. They experience bliss with you. They experience fulfillment with you as you experience fulfillment with them. And it plays out your way, which to them, if you ask them, they'll say, I love how you do it. I love that you don't do these things. I love what you wear, your style. So interesting, right? A person may do these things to get love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. What I realized is that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and it manifests as your style, as these kinds of ways of going about doing things, as you drop the conditions. So anytime a thought that suggests I need to do any of these things here in order to get love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I need to, this is the thing, I need to do all these things or any of these things, I don't identify with it. I know that everything happens by grace and grace alone. And when it does play out, it plays out your way, which is the best way. All these things, as stated, are added onto you by grace and grace alone. All I do and why I teach be in flow is because all these things happen naturally in flow, including the conditions falling away. It allows you, while you're in flow, to see things as they are. You don't judge by appearances. For example, let's use dating or relationships. A person does one of these things in order to get the other person to like them. So that's a condition. They're doing these things in order to get the other person to like them, rather than being as they are. Some people may have a condition. No, I have to get this other person to accept me. And my view on that is I don't worry about that. I don't worry about it. Why do I need to worry about that? People, environment, information, everything appears to be in harmony with you as you be as you are, as you remain as you are. So, you don't do any of these things in order to get. You just, let's, for example, you see someone you want to start a conversation with, you walk over and you start a conversation. Or if you're out and about, people may come up to you and start a conversation with you, and everything flows accordingly. It flows naturally. In business, for example, prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, there is no condition. You show up, you do the presentation, you reach out to people, and you're not worried if they're going to do the deal or not, because you know it does not hold you back from actualizing your vision. As a result of not identifying with these conditions, what happens is the business succeeds in a flow-based way, not a stress or force-based way. The stress, the force, is generated by the need to control, and you are not the need to control. You are that existence, consciousness, bliss, or the existence, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason, and everything plays out accordingly. As what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, how you emotionally relate, what you wear, where you are, who you're with, your style, how you breathe, how you walk, how you carry yourself, all these things I put on the list here. What I have done is essentially I set definite chief aims. And what always happens, absolutely always happens, is I know at least one step to take or one step not to take. See, soul doership is an illusion. God does everything with the individual in perfect harmony. By that it is meant, I know what to do and what not to do. What is not to be done is taken care of. God does it. Behind the scenes, God takes care of everything. people, environment, circumstance, information, all things appear to be in perfect harmony. All these things added onto you by grace and grace alone. I just listen to intuition and take the steps, as Steve Jobs had also said in his commencement speech, which I used to listen to over and over again when I built my IT business to success from 2009 to 13. He said, follow your heart and intuition, everything else is secondary. Why would he say that? See, a person may identify with particular conditioning in mind, and as a result of identification to this conditioning in mind, it generates suffering. In other words, they're attached to whatever kind of appearances. They need the appearances to look in a particular way in order to be that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. They think that, but that's an illusion. You are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, how you emotionally relate, what you wear, where you go, how you smile, facial expressions, voice tonality, manifests. They happen. They just happen. Now, a person may judge by appearances. They may say, oh, well, the way you dress, the way you talk, I'm going to copy you, and then I'll get the results. Well, you may or may not get the results. Why do you need this condition to be met in order to get the results? You can have the results without the conditions. Your style, which is the best style. So, while in flow, what happens is the conditions fall away, mind is purified, and your natural style manifests. More and more so. That's what has happened with me since 2004 and continues to do so more so each day. So another way of saying it is, you are that perfection, and that perfection is manifesting more so. It's manifesting more and more so, and the conditions are falling away more and more so. What emerges is the real self. The real self shines forth as all these things, and not just all these things behavioral, all these things environment, all these things relationships, all these things, etc., etc. And to go back to the questions that were asked and why I expand upon it, maybe I don't expand upon it this much in the DMs that I get or emails, but that's why I made this video, to expand upon it, is that it is absolute truth. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added on to you. That's why I say desire points to fulfillment. You could do whatever kind of technique or strategy or whatever you'd like to get yourself to feel fulfilled. Or you can know right now, existence is the fulfillment, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, from which everything manifests by grace and grace alone. That is what is called the righteousness, as I say. Not because I said so. This is from personal experience. And I've had this conversation with so many people over the years that discovered it in their own way. And we're able to put two and two together and say, okay, well, although we say it differently, this is exactly what's going on. You are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and everything that is yours is added onto you by grace and grace alone. And everything you don't truly desire just gets transformed. See, a person might not like that because they're attached to appearances. And if you ask them, why are you attached to the appearances? They think that the appearance is the source of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is an illusion. You are that source of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are that pure awareness, and your real nature is consciousness, bliss, consciousness, happiness. Where else do you experience the consciousness, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, other than with all these things in this world here? So prove it in equation. Drop the conditions. So all I did was, again, as he said in Think and Grow Rich, there are these conditions or programming stored in the subconscious mind. I stopped identifying with them. And then more of the real self emerged as all these things. And then at a particular point, you discover that there's no need to look around to see what other people are doing to determine how you should live, what you should do, what you should not do, etc. Does the radiant, real self, confidence-based individual, real self, magnetism-based individual, real self, charisma-based individual look around to see what other people are doing and then add a condition in mind in order to get what they want? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Everything happens by grace and grace alone. And it happens to be in harmony with everyone. So this is not about egotism. This is about reality and everything appearing to be in perfect harmony. Now, James Allen, in his wonderful book, The Heavenly Life, said it in a very poetic way. He said, the spiritual heart of the individual is the heart of the universe. And finding that heart, the individual finds the strength to accomplish all things. See, knowing that you are that existence, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, you are completely fulfilled. So you don't need to do this or that, or try to do this or that in order to be fulfilled. Everything spontaneously, naturally emerges in flow. That's strength. What you say, what you don't say, etc. God does everything. Happens naturally. All I do is, as stated in Romans 12:2, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. What does this mean, renewing of the mind? Well, what is that which illumines the mind, which is beyond the conditioning? It is the light of pure awareness, the pure consciousness, as stated in Genesis 1:3. This is the Peshitta Aramaic Bible translation, one of my favorite translations of Genesis 1:3. And God said, the light shall be, and the light was. Again, I am that pure awareness. The light is pure consciousness that purifies the mind. Another way of saying it, by allowing some space for you to listen to yourself and trust yourself, you could identify, if you would like, with the condition and generate a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, or you can, for a moment, let it be. Let it be. There is a space. There's a space. And in that space is infinite intelligence. You allow space for clarity to emerge, and then you can really think for yourself. As Steve Jobs had said, follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. He also said, don't let the noise of opinions drown out your own inner voice. Your inner voice is beyond, prior to that conditioning in mind, which is falling away. As you no longer identify with those thoughts, what happens is the real self shines forth. So I like to use the Robert Dilts logical levels modified. I modified it by putting this I on the top. There you are. You are that pure awareness and pure consciousness. Some like to use it interchangeably. I like to say it is one. Like, for example, Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, or existence, consciousness, bliss. Ananda may be translated into happiness, peace, joy, bliss. Not three different things. The same perfection. There you are, that perfection. That is you. Perfection. Now, all these layers here appear to transform. You have a vision, definite chief aim. That is a prophecy. That is a prophecy. I look at this as self-fulfilling prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy. All these definite chief aims that I had were, as Neville Goddard had said, the spiritual self speaks through the natural self, through the language of desire. Napoleon Hill said it in his own way as well. You truly desire to be as you are and live the life that you truly desire to live. So, as you accept that you are that which you desire to be, then you can see clearly if there's any conditioning appearing in mind that suggests that you are not that. And then the identity construct, that which we can define a person as, transforms, appears to transform. This is metaphysical. Values and beliefs can transform. That's metaphysical as well. And here's where it starts to get physical. The capabilities, the skills manifest. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, your style of direct response marketing, copywriting, consultative selling, your style of innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, your style of business, another way of saying it. And even the things you go about doing. For example, I had an IT business, but I did 10 years in corporate IT. Those were the natural capabilities that manifested for me. Why do I say that? Because for me, growing up with computers and the way I went about doing it, it made perfect sense to me. I just got how it works. Even the conditioning that was there in my mind surrounding money, when I dissolved it, I was like, you know what? Money just makes sense to me. I'd see how it works. That's why when I come across information, about technology or money or the kind of things that I know in my heart, I know, I can tell, I can discern, I can see what is the information or what are the bits of information to move forward with, and the rest I can let it be. So the behaviors appear to transform, the environments appear to transform. Now, James Allen also says, they find there also the wisdom to see things as they are. The wisdom to see things as they are. So rather than identifying or seeing it through a lens of conditioning, which generates suffering, you are aware of if the conditioning is about to be identified with based on any kind of thoughts appearing in mind that suggest otherwise, that you are not that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Emotionally as well. Let the emotions be. Let the thoughts be. You allow the emotions to release. You feel them being released. Some people might say, well, I don't want to feel those emotions because those emotions suggest that I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And I said, you're not dwelling in the condition that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment when you're releasing the emotions. You are releasing the emotions. That is what is happening. So when you have a harmonious relationship with emotions, you're less likely to react because you're not afraid of whatever kind of appearance. As I mentioned, you see someone you want to start a conversation with, you walk over and start a conversation. You want to start a business, you start a business. Part of the business involves prospecting, you prospect. You realize that putting out a video is part of the business, you put out the video. And even if there is some fear or emotions arising, which the individual labels as fear, you release them and still take the step. And through the repetition, the condition dissolves and flow is experienced. So seeing things as they are means that the individual realizes that they can see this world through a condition which distorts reality. And through dissolving the condition, they see things as they are a lot easier, effortlessly. As I had mentioned, I just dissolved these conditions along the years. That's why I created my subconscious mind program. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. There has been many individuals that have gone through the program that have manifested their ideal relationships, their business success, whatever areas of life. I put it all in the process of releasing the conditions. So in other words, they're going to get that stuff anyways. Because what is rightfully theirs, they know in their heart, that is what desire points to. That's what the vision is. It's a prophecy. It's just these conditions that they identify with that generates the resistance from doing whatever or results in them doing things that they don't genuinely desire to do. They'll start acting in ways that they don't really want to act. When they allow space for clarity to emerge, when they dissolve that conditioning, no longer identify with that conditioning, they'll just naturally do the thing that they love to do. They'll see things as they are, and if they're about to become identified with the condition, they'll know it's a condition. He also says they find there the peace that is divine. They find there the peace that is divine, as well as the happiness, love, bliss, fulfillment that is divine. At the center of the individual's being is the music which orders the stars, the eternal harmony. What happens is the individual starts to see, this happened to me and appeared more so as all these things in perfect harmony, or everything appears to be in perfect harmony. Or another way of saying it is the way I describe it in entrepreneurship. I say physical assets, intangible assets, digital assets, relationships all emerge to be in harmony and contribution with your vision in relation to the various areas of entrepreneurship: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, your style, which is the best style. So here's what I noticed when it came to personal relationships, business relationships, friendships, family relationships. My definite chief aims were a spiritual catalyst. Yes, they were money-based, entrepreneurial-based, yet they were spiritual catalysts that transformed all areas of my life. Because I found that if I dropped the conditions in relation to whatever appears, and I just see things as they are, that by seeing things as they are, you drop the conditions. For example, I'm looking at a man walking across the street right now. What is he doing? He's walking across the street. What is not overlaid upon that is mental conditioning saying, why is he walking like that? He needs to walk this other way. What is the point of thinking those things? I don't think those things. Back in the days, I would think these things. Another example would be, okay, I'm looking at the mountains and there's snow on the top. I'm not thinking, oh, I wish it would snow so I can snowboard. There's only snow on the top of the mountains and there hasn't been enough snow that they would open up the slopes. Therefore, I can't be happy. See, I look at the mountain and I see mountains with snow on them. Does the mountains with snow on them hold me back from manifesting my definite chief aim? Does it ruin my relationships? Consider for a moment in dating and relationships, if a person walks around on eggshells, being very conditional, then how are their relationships going to play out with their friends, their family, their friends, etc.? Their way of life is so conditional that this or that needs to be there in order to be happy. And that is how they constantly, habitually identify with this world through conditioning. That's why we dissolve the conditioning. Now, not only do you see things as they are, you also see how things are in harmony and in contribution to your vision. For example, let's say you're going out with a bunch of friends. You see someone you want to start a conversation with, you find them attractive, you start a conversation with them. You don't see rejection as a problem. See, a person may be afraid to start a conversation because they're afraid of rejection. It's an opportunity to release the conditioning. Let's say that conditioning wasn't there. What could happen is, let's say they start that conversation with the person and they don't end up giving the phone number, but then maybe later on they see that person again and they say, hey, how's it going? And then they end up talking to one of their friends and they end up connecting. Or maybe later on they end up connecting. See, conditions distort reality if we look at it and say, I need this person to give me the phone number now in order to be happy. If they don't give me the phone number, then I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Subconsciously, we can say that they're saying it based on conditioning. So that's why we bring awareness to this conditioning and we dissolve it. Now, why I teach be in flow, and we've had many discussions over the years on being in flow, is while in flow, these conditions just fall away. These conditions are not there. Flow is mind purifying. It's living meditation. And there are many ways to access the flow. You can access the flow, be in flow, while in meditation, while going for a walk, while doing what you love to do. As a matter of fact, I personally recommend doing what you love to do. Follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell had said it. And I have also found was in relation to whatever appears in the bridge of incidents, to manifesting the vision, as Napoleon Hill had articulated. If there was ever an opportunity to release the condition, and I would take the opportunity, in the earlier stages I didn't take them as much. One doesn't have to be a perfectionist about these things. Yet when I made flow a priority in 2017, because I saw the benefits of it, I was taking these opportunities to dissolve these flow restrictors. And by that is meant, if the individual identifies with the condition, the flow is restricted. If they don't identify with the condition, they remain in flow, and the appearances transform. It's amazing. Snowboarding, for example, a person falls down, they get back up, back again. If they're identified with the condition that suggests, I need to snowboard like this other person, I'm not good enough, I keep falling, that's a problem, and then they generate more suffering. It's not a problem to fall down. As a matter of fact, the body learns while falling. Wonderful book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He talks about this. And so what I did was I applied the flow process outlined in the wonderful book Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. in relation to my vision, and the conditions dissolved along the way. I would dissolve these conditions along the way in relation to a task or project or anything that I was working on. Because every task, project, initiative in relation to my definite chief aim is a spiritual catalyst. Any person that shows up, any information that shows up, anything that shows up, if there is flow restrictor conditioning in mind and the opportunity is presented, I dissolve the conditioning. So clear goal at an abstract and granular level. That's the vision, the abstract level. The granulars are the task, projects, initiatives. In relation to the task, projects, initiatives, there is immediate reporting and feedback. So let's use the example of sitting down right here and making this video. So I have a clear goal at an abstract level. This is related to my definite chief aim. Overall, this channel, these videos, everything that I do, everything you see me do is related to my definite chief aim. At a granular level, it's make this video. Sit down here and make this video. There is immediate reporting and feedback while making the video. I'm aware of how I feel, what I think, my body language, my voice tonality, without judgment. And I know that I'm in flow. But if I felt tense, or if I was stuck in my head, or I was saying things to try to impress you, rather than share personal experiences from the heart, working with people, etc., then I know it's a flow restrictor because I'm running it through a condition. I'm operating from a conditioned mind. I'd rather have a fluid mind, fluidity of mind. So the light of pure awareness can radiate forth as this communication. In some of these initiatives, there may be a challenge and skill harmony point. If something appears too challenging, we can chunk it down. So let's say it was a series of videos that I was making. I'll say one video at a time. Rather than overthink, oh, I got to do 15, 20 videos as part of this series, one video at a time. Chunk it down. All I do is show up, have this conversation, and there may be some emotions arising in relation to some of the things that I share. That's okay. I release them. And by release, I don't mean project it onto you. I'm not projecting it onto you. I'm allowing the emotions to be released. Another way of saying it is you feel the fear and do it anyways. There's a wonderful book on that. Feel the fear and do it anyways. So like when you were to do prospecting or starting a conversation with someone or in conversation with someone, if there is some fear arising, that's okay. You let it be. And the fear runs its course. The emotions arise and subside. I don't identify if there's any thoughts that suggest I can't overcome this challenge, which is an opportunity. This is also, I've been referring to this as the G spot, where challenge meets skill, the God spot. I don't run away from the challenge. It is an opportunity for me to release the condition, to experience flow. Now, as I take these opportunities, if they emerge, they may be there, they may not be there. What happens is the mind gets deconditioned and actions and awareness are experienced as one. Everything is realized to be as one because fundamentally, only God alone exists playing all roles in perfect harmony. Thus, we may individually experience no fear, doubt, indecision in mind, time distortion, and what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls the activity and the person becomes autotelic, which is what I call the real self shines forth unconditionally. More so, in the experience, the conditions are dissolved. Now, what's interesting is those conditions were based on needing something to be this way or that way to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. With those conditions dissolved, I experience that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment with whatever it is that I do. And as I remain in flow and dissolve these conditions, my relationships, personal life, business life, family life, how I relate with people, continuously gets better and better and better. And it plays out as these things more and more so. It has been more and more so. There's no end. There's no limit to the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. There's no limit to the being you are. That perfection is just manifesting more so as all these things. What you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, how you emotionally relate, what you wear, where you are, who you're with, your style, how you breathe, how you walk, how you carry yourself, your tone of voice, your facial expressions, how you smile, the pace at which you move, what you prioritize, what you give attention to, the foods you choose, the music you choose, they happen naturally. Again, Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added onto you. Now, how do you think your relationships would be if you're living like this? You think you're going to need this or that tactic or technique to get what you want? You are the tactic or technique, you can say, which is not really a tactic and technique. You are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And it plays out accordingly. That is what James Allen meant by when he said, the spiritual heart of an individual is the heart of the universe. And finding that heart, the individual finds the strength to accomplish all things. They find there also the wisdom to see things as they are. They find there the peace that is divine. At the center of the individual's being is the music which orders the stars. Is that not how you experience flow? Certainly he was in flow when he wrote this. At the center of our being is the music which orders the stars. To actually experience that in the moment. If you listen to something like that, it could sound like a bunch of fancy words that don't make any sense. Some things might not make sense unless we're in flow. While in flow, they make perfect sense. Relationships make perfect sense. You know, what you say, what you don't say, how you communicate. Have you noticed that while you're in flow, the conversations, the communications you have with people, they flow naturally? The real self shines forth. Or another way of saying it is your best self shines forth. What I'd put on my Instagram the other day, and this might not make any sense if an individual is not in flow, but that is meant the person is stuck in the head. I wrote, my philosophy is not this versus that philosophy. My philosophy is this and that philosophy at the same time. It was inspired by what was written in the Kabbalion, where it said, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Pair of opposites, like and unlike, are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. And that might not make any sense if the person is stuck in the head. But the person in mind is not real. You are that which is prior to the person in mind. You are that pure light of awareness which illumines the mind. And thus knowing that you are that, the person and identification to confusion dissolves. And so I wrote, what is beyond dual? You know, they said everything is dual. What is beyond dual? Nothing. What is dual? Everything. Everything makes sense in flow. Actually, nothing also makes sense in flow. I am everything and nothing in perfect harmony. I wrote, the above statements make sense in flow and sound confusing to the person stuck in the head. Flow is the way of life. Just make flow a priority and everything works out harmoniously. So flow is the natural way of life, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, in perfect harmony as one. That's how I also relate to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So let's just say, going back to the beginning, if that person does text you back, or if you do run into that person, you're in flow. And what you experience is harmonious relationship with them. If the conditions are still there in mind, no shame, no condemnation, a person may say, okay, now this person has showed up. Now I need to start acting this way, doing this or that, and more techniques and all this thing to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that's not natural. That does not represent harmonious relationship, which happens while in flow. So we take the opportunities to dissolve the conditioning. That's all. Because what remains after you dissolve the conditioning? What remains is reality, or God, in perfect harmony. That is what is meant by I am nothing and I am everything in perfect harmony. Or another way of saying it, as I titled the mind map, Existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment you are seeking for, and the fact that you exist is that. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I know that I am that beyond all these things, that perfection, that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which appears more so as harmonious relationships, harmonious business, harmonious environments, all these things added on to me by grace and grace alone. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.